Tracy Martin.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Thank you very much. I'm going to admit that I wasn't looking forward to coming down and speaking on this bill because it wasn't that controversial. It wasn't that controversial. But I got to say, it's taken an interesting turn. And I would say with regard to Spark, the comment I would give to Spark is, oh, come on. Come on. I went back, New Zealand, this levy was originally passed before the 2011 election. So New Zealand First wasn't here. But I think the voting is interesting. The voting is interesting when you actually go back to the votes that were taken. And I'm going to give the Labour Party points for consistency. They voted against it then. So well done, they voted against it then. The Green Party voted against it then, but the Green Party obviously has shifted their position because they can see that there's been some movement, and we have to get this rolled out. We have to get this rolled out. How much longer can rural New Zealand stop and wait for this Parliament to make up its mind? Something's got to be done to actually connect these people. They've been promised long enough, and we need to make it happen. But the interesting thing, the most interesting thing about the vote on this legislation before the 2011 election was that it split the ACT Party. The ACT Party had 3 members vote for it and 2 members vote against it. Now, I wonder if Mr Seymour is going to split over this vote. Is this going to put Mr Seymour into some sort of a tiz? We never know. The other comment I think is most interesting, and this is why I say to Spark, come on, and the Labour Party, come on. Don't tell me that a company the size of Spark doesn't have the minister's telephone number on speed dial. Don't tell me that a company the size of Spark can't reach out to this government and tell it what it thinks. That it doesn't actually have dinners with this government to tell it what it thinks. So to say that there's been no consultation on what is just an extension from a bill from 2011 is pushing the bounds. It really, really is pushing the bounds of believability. And Spark is being disingenuous. I haven't seen Spark's press release. I'm going to take the member's word for it, that Spark has said that they're going to pass this on to the customer. But if that is what Spark has said, I want to suggest that Spark is pushing both sides of the same horse here. In 2013, these members on this side of the House fought to stop an increase in copper pricing to subsidise rural broadband rollout, to subsidise fibre. We fought against it, and Spark this is when we're talking about. We're talking about the 19th of May 2015. Spark Chief Executive Simon Multer says he's encouraged by the public's response to its campaign to cut copper broadband costs. You can't have it both ways. If we want to keep copper low, and we should keep copper low because that is not right, that those customers that have remained on copper need to subsidise those customers that can afford and can get fibre. So if Spark wants us to argue on this side to keep copper pricing low, you can't come out in the next minute and decide you're going to up the prices when what is a levy you have already priced on, that you already knew was coming, and that already, way back here, where's this article from? This is from January the 5th, 2015. You had a conversation, Spark had a conversation with the Commerce Commission around its final decision on the liability allocation for telecommunications providers. Please don't argue that you didn't know. I fully understand that you may have budgeted for more profit going forward when you believed that beg your pardon. I fully understand that that business may have budgeted for more profit going forward when it believed that the levy was going to drop to $10 million in 2016. That was the promise made. Take your issue to the government. Don't take your issue to the people of New Zealand. Take your issue to the government. If they misled you, then take it to them. But there is no need for Spark to raise their prices, and I agree with the Minister. If they do so when this bill goes through, then they do so and they are disingenuous. They cannot have it both ways. And the digital literacy inquiry, I'm sorry, but I find it interesting that Ms Curran, who sat on the digital literacy inquiry and at the time pointed out that rural New Zealand was missing out and lower socioeconomic areas of our urban cities were missing out on broadband and having it a delayed rollout because the big players, the players were actually going where the money was, where the number of connections were. You can't argue about there's not enough connections, so therefore it's not valuable, if at the same time you want us to put that provision into those areas so that there is the capacity for those people to connect once we find a method by which they can actually afford to connect. That's the first thing. And also, how can you argue, therefore, against a tender system that says that all areas now will be decided through a tender system rather than the telcos deciding there's a whole group of rich people sitting in that space, they can pay the bill, they will download a lot of internet, we will actually go and put in the signal to there. So I can't understand the Labor Party and its position on this moment, although its position is consistent. However, and while I certainly want to use any opportunity I can to have a go at the government about breaking promises, and I'll mention it again, they've broken a promise to you, the telecommunications companies, take it up with them. But to suggest that this is new, it's just beyond belief. It's been here since 2011. It's an extension. It is an extension, and the reason why it's an extension, and unfortunately this might turn the Labor Party right off against New Zealand First, is because of Northland. One of the reasons why...
Order. I regret that I have to interrupt the member, but it is Kai time. This sitting is suspended until 7 p.m. tonight.